I have known this person for a long time, but I will tell you something. I had no idea uh, about how accomplished she is. I knew that she was a producer in these exotic locations for Survivor and these shows that take her to these incredible locales. So, in that unscripted world of having to produce on the fly against all of these various environmental elements, and as I say, with varying amounts of support, she has great stories to tell from that. But what I didn't realize was the degree to which she has worked to elevate psyche and spirit. She's written a new book called Take a Shot at Happiness, and she's with us now. She is a writer, director, producer, Maria Baltazzi, everybody. Hello to you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Well,
Nice introduction.
I should mention, and I could have gone on and on, that your education is something else I wasn't aware of. I mean, you've really been trained in many ways that, far exceed just writing a book on these things. But when you Take a Shot at Happiness, you cite, and this is what I really like, it speaks to me. You cite research and you cite facts and science that underpins a lot of these recommendations and strategies for getting to a better place.
Well, what I did is I looked at what was working for me and I qualified it. And then I went out to see if there was research to back up what I was feeling intuitively. And thankfully, I found it and it became my book.
Yeah, I mean, Albert, you're cranking her up a little bit, so I want to be able to hear her clearly. Okay.
Yeah, I'm writing her levels.
Okay.
Okay. Is that better? I brought a mic in.
Yeah, closer. I think that's better. Albert, you'll tell us if it's breaking up too much. It sounds a little broken up, but if you're okay with it, I'll continue.
I'm on it.
Okay, cool.
Do you want me to?
Okay. I don't know, Albert. You're not going to be shy about it. If you need her to disconnect and reconnect, you'll tell us, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And I have these guys. I have these guys too.
Okay. Okay. So before I get to happiness and Take a Shot at Happiness, and as I say, I really like the book, and I like that there's a kind of almost a how-to, which I enjoyed as well. I want to ask you about this whole world of unscripted reality stuff. You worked on Survivor.
Yeah.
Just as an example, you worked on a bunch of stuff, but what is that about? I mean, was you're really watching people both challenge themselves and sort of disintegrate on camera in all of these bizarre ways. What is it like to produce something like that?
Well, it's a lot of things, and you are very much the fly on the wall watching life unfold. I mean, when I was doing Survivor, because there was money at stake, you could not interfere with their game. So you really had to follow story as it was unfolding. And two things that I took away from my experience at Survivor is, one, not to judge a book by its cover. And what I mean by that is the show has people of every background, size, shape, diversity is on that show. And when you would be doing an interview in a hotel room, you would see somebody who's maybe really physically fit and they seemed really sharp and on it. And then you would get them into a remote location where they don't hurt and they would fall apart. And what I came to realize out of that is that there are different kinds of fitness. So you can be gym fit, you can be urban mentally fit, but you're not fit when you're out in the elements trying to survive, when you're taken out of your comfort zone. And then to that, the other thing that I started to observe, because I was always the last person who did the show. So I was with the contestants all the way through. And time and time again, I would hear the same thing. This is not really me. This is just me playing a game. And it's just like, it is you. How could it not be? These are your words and behavior. It is you. And what I realized is that we have different shades of our personality. And if you are not put in the environment that would bring out that particular shade of your personality, you don't know what you're capable of. You don't know what you're capable of until you are in that situation that you've never been in before. So those are two really great takeaways that have stayed with me from doing the show.
And in the book, you reference oftentimes as a platform to jump off into whatever point you're trying to make or strategy you're suggesting can be employed. You jump off some of these experiences, some of these things that you've been part of, that you've seen in real life as a television producer, and then you apply it to, as I say, these various things that can be integrated into our lives. I wonder if you can speak to that a little bit. There's so much in your book, I almost didn't know where to start. So maybe you can just give me a sense of it.
Well, two things that I did is, well, first of all, as I mentioned, I qualified 8 happiness essentials, what I thought are the virtues, qualities, and habits of happy people. And then I went out and found the research for it. And what helped me was to really look at what people were doing, look at their behavior and do it with a curious mind. So one of the things that I feel like I've become is a happiness explorer. And what I mean by that is that you are going into a situation with curiosity and openness, and you're willing to explore both that outer world and that inner world. And what I would do then with my chapters is I would take stories from my experiences on Survivor, or I would take stories from films that we knew or know, and I would use that as a jumping off point. One of the stories I use in my gratitude chapter is when we were in the Australian outback. The survivors had built their makeshift shelter on a dry riverbed at an edge of a river because it was easier access to go fishing to get food. And this was at a time when the tribe had merged, and so they were all one, and it was really super hot. They were hungry, and they were hungry, and they just didn't have the energy to do anything. And we had a challenge that afternoon, and it was a strength challenge, and we thought that the challenge would go quickly. So
yeah, because they were so weak, you expected that the physical challenge was over very, very rapidly.
Right, and the challenge was they had a rod that had 2 buckets of sand on either side, but the reward was for hamburgers and hot dogs with real outback cowboys, and so there was a lot of incentive. So at any rate, the challenge went on and on and on, and it lasted all afternoon. And Colby Donaldson won the challenge. He goes off with the cowboys. They have his hot dogs and hamburgers, and then as the tribe was going back to the camp, rain clouds started to form, and then raindrops, and then a deluge of rain, which passed pretty quickly. And then as they were making their way back to the camps, what were small, dry riverbeds were now just torrents of water. And by the time they got to their camp, it had been completely washed away. And they just were like ghosts moving through the environment, picking up a fishing hook or a fleece. and realizing that they just had so little. Their meager stuff was even less. And they realized that they didn't have any food, and it's at the edge of night, and their spirits broke, and just one by one, they just plunked down onto the sand. And they found a semi-dry blanket that they put over their heads. And then Elizabeth Hasselbeck remembered what day it was, and it was Thanksgiving. And in that moment, the game completely stopped. And they went around one by one saying what they were grateful for. And I think about this, every Thanksgiving is that, they were so grateful for so little. Yeah, and that is one of the lessons that I write about in my book, is that grateful, that ability to look at what you have versus what you don't have.
Yeah, you really talk about how, in the case that you noted, how everything was stripped away, and how there's several lessons in all of that, from the strength competition to the rain, to everything being stripped away. But gratefulness is a big part of your book. It's kind of communicated to the audience, to the reader, in a couple of different ways, I think. But it's a really interesting thing, because we come out of a culture, I believe, that is about wanting, is about goals, is about stuff. And so sometimes it's hard to get to the grateful, because you're so goal-oriented, ambitious. These are all things that are rewarded in our society, and it can be good. But one of the goals, and I thought this is one of the things I kind of took from your book, is an important one when it comes to gratefulness. Your goal should be grateful for some of the things that you already appreciate. And I think it's a weird, it doesn't feel like it's a big ask, but I feel in our culture, it is actually a big ask.
Well, it's a big ask. However, as you're pointing out, it's really important, because when you can realize what you have versus what you don't have, that gives you, well, it gives me hope, that I'm not lacking, that there are good things in my life that I can call upon, that seeing the glass as half full is really important, because when you can come from a place of saying, oh, I have this, that actually helps you be motivated to go and get to that next thing that you're looking for. But you do it in a way that isn't grasping, because when you start to hold on to those wants, or you start to really take in that, oh, I don't have this or that, it just causes pain and suffering. Whereas if you can look to see what you have, it keeps you more upbeat.
And I would just say this also, and by the way, you have a great research to support what you just said in your book. But what I also think is, it's not just what you, I know you don't mean it, but what you have have, but you point out in the book, and these are things that just cut through to me, all around us are things that we can appreciate. And if you look out, you can see all around us these things that can be transformative in terms of making us happy, which is really what your book is about. So when it comes to shaking depression, or just a downcast sense of things, which I think that's why I'm so glad we're having you on, and this week particularly, it can seem so grim that you need to find things around us, and they are everywhere, that can bring you happiness and some peace. And I love that you spend time on that in your book.
One of the greatest lessons that I've learned in my journey really came from Dr. Rick Hansen. and he's a neuropsychologist, and he's written a number of books. And he talks about favoring the good, that you intentionally train yourself to see what is working, what is good, and when you're having a positive experience, that you hold that experience for 20 to 30 seconds. And you do this on a consistent enough basis that it becomes your habit. And what you're really doing is you're training a positive neural pathway. And so you're training yourself away from the negative and towards the positive. That was a huge lesson for me.
And that idea that you can sort of rebake your mental psychological cake. I love that. I mean, I love that you can rewire, however, whatever parallel might work. That that we're wiring all the time, and you can rewire with positivity. I really thought and think your book is just it's almost a workbook. You know what I mean? You have these things at the end of every chapter or throughout the book. The book is punctuated with these various things that we all can do. So I feel like it's not about just a passive kind of coursework or lecture. It has a very interesting dynamic to it. You decided to do it that way?
Well, I did. I have many really great books sitting on my shelf, and what I wanted was actually a book I ended up by writing. And that was a creative approach to becoming happier. Because I think when you can tap into your creativity, it anchors those concepts in a way that takes it from your head and puts it into your heart, into your body. It manifests in a different way. And I that is you're absorbing it in a more sustainable, lasting way. So when I give a writing assignment, what I call an action opportunity, it's specific to what I just wrote about. And what that's doing by writing is it's taking that blob of information that you have in your head and helping you to organize and clarify thoughts. And often it can be very emotionally. And also
now we're having a problem, Albert. Why is she breaking up? I don't know what's going on. I had a couple of important questions too. There's something breaking up on your line. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's the internet.
Oh, it's Wi-Fi. Yeah.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi.
I'll just mention that to exercise, Sandy says, helps with depression. It's hard to motivate, but it helps so much. That is something that Maria talks about in her book. I'm telling you, this book really hits all of these different areas. Maria, sadly, we're having internet issues. The book is called "Take a Shot at Happiness." For whatever reason, her internet connection is spotty. It always felt a little shaky, but then it got really spotty. Damn it, I had a question about, did you see that Survivor question that we got, Albert? It was about reality shows generally, and I wanted to ask her about that too. It was something like, here it is. It's from Mackay. Mackay said, all the reality shows are scripted in advance and the winners already know they'll win. That is absolutely not true. And I don't know where you got that information, but it is absolutely 100% not true, Mackay. And Maria, go ahead. You could, I don't know.
I think we're still having some issues.
Yeah, still having issues, but it's not true, pal. I'm Maria, hip deep in reality programming and producing it, and she can tell you it would be a violation of law to do that. To represent something as open to competition where there's money involved and the outcome all on the way, the outcome is set up. No, sorry, Mackay, not on that one. So we got exercise.
So people were actually voted off the island, Mark. Is that what you're telling me?
The people were actually voted off the island. Thank you. Look, I want you to look at this book. It is out now. It's called "Take a Shot at Happiness." Maria is someone who I'd love to have back again. Like to talk to her about all of her experiences, both producing in the entertainment world, and also having transcended the entertainment world and gotten into meditation and gotten into all of these self-empowering strategies. It's terrific. But it's all there in Take a Shot at Happiness, Maria Baltazzi's new book. Maria, I'm sorry that the internet there apparently is just a little spotty. I don't know what it is, but it sucks because I've been looking forward to talking to her more. But
So her book just came out, I think. It just is new. Take a Shot at Happiness. How to write, direct, and produce your own life.
Yeah. I encourage everybody. I've read it, and it's really good. And it's good for all of us. You know, it's, man, I got my act together. I don't need to, okay. But you'll find still some great stuff in here. I just think we all can integrate, to different degrees and on different levels. So, Maria, come back again, and we'll work out whatever technical stuff. But Maria Baltazzi, everybody.
Yay.
Yeah. Really sorry that we
I think
don't have, yeah.
I think a book like this sometimes can be a reminder, because it's so easy to just go from day to day to day and just do the things you're doing, just try to keep your head above water and not ever really kind of be a little more introspective about, am I doing what I want? How am I going to achieve the things I want? I can't do that by, just doing the same old thing every day. And how do I consciously make the choice to do things a little different to make my life better?
Yeah, and that's why I was speaking to the ubiquity of stuff that can change your mood. And the clever thing she does in this book, and then we'll move on, I want to acknowledge some people, but the clever thing she does in this book, and I mentioned it because I just had not seen it really ever before. Maybe in a Tony Robbins thing, I guess. Maybe, sometimes he'll do some of that stuff.
We've never seen anything like this.
There's never been anything like this.
There's never been anything like this. Is this sort of call to action repeatedly, like exercises. I don't mean, physical exercises, but mental exercises, challenges that you can find throughout the book that really help you understand and act on what you have just learned. I thought it was, and of course, the thing that appealed to me the most, because it's just sort of the way I'm wired, is that it was all underpinned by science, by research. She starts in that place, and I love that. So again, pick it up, buy it, be happy. Take a Shot at Happiness, it's called. Take a Shot at Happiness, Maria Baltazzi. Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.